So for those of you who haven't heard, there is a brand new Avatar project in the works. Now, I'm not talking about the live action movie that Netflix wants to do. I am talking about an animated series, a sequel to Korra. And this animated series will follow the path of the next Avatar in the cycle after Korra, who will be an Earthbender. Now, to say that this project is gonna be here next year or anytime soon is unfortunately not the truth. The project itself is slated for late 2025. So we're looking at about 3 or so years here. But I figured with this news breaking so recently, there's never been a better time than to dip back into the Avatar inkwell. And while I realize on this page I've done things like Bending Explained and the White Lotus Explained, I've somehow never explained the Avatar. I mean, obviously you have to talk about the Avatar a little bit when you're explaining all the different kinds of bending, but I never sat down and explained how the Avatar works, all the avatars we know, the mechanics of being an Avatar, what kind of strength is conferred with being an Avatar, how an Avatar can sever themselves from past lives, and so many other things. See, the Avatar universe is much, and I mean much more than just Avatar and Korra. There are books, one-shots, everything that you can imagine. The universe is very rich and very full, which is why the premise of a new animated series excites me so much. Because while the books are incredible and a lot of people I know have read them, let's be real, the world is a better place when there's animated Avatar content coming out. So in order to get you ready for more animated Avatar coming out, well, we're gonna try and jam as much Avatar knowledge into your brain as possible. But before we get to jamming anything, anywhere, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And while you guys are at it, go ahead and follow my podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where I talk all kinds of anime, Avatar included. It's available anywhere you stream audio, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, but it's also available on YouTube. The Avatar, the connection between the spiritual realm and the human realm. Master of all 4 bending styles and energy bending. A somewhat supernatural character able to talk with past versions of themselves to get as much wisdom as possible. The key interest of the White Lotus, a cyclical spirit that travels from bending style to make sure that one bending style never gets too powerful. How did the Avatar cycle begin? What abilities do they have outside of being able to bend all 4 elements? How does an Avatar operate as the bridge between the human worlds and the spirit world? How does an Avatar come into contact with their past lives, and what is the Avatar state? Well, in order to answer these questions and a lot more, we're gonna start this video off in the way that we tend to start these videos off, at the beginning. See, fortunately for us, Avatar has a year system, a universally accepted way to denote when things were happening in the timeline. Unfortunately, this universally accepted timeline is based off the air genocide. And much in the same way as humans, there's a before genocide, BG, like we have BC, and an after genocide, AG, like we have AD. The first plot point we're going to be talking about happens in 9829 BG, during the first harmonic convergence we ever see. See, harmonic convergence is when all of the planets in our solar system align. Because all of these planets align, the spiritual energy on Earth is greatly amplified. And in this moment, the spirit portals that exist in the North and the South Pole merge. Now, this harmonic convergence happens every 10,000 years. And every 10,000 years, Rava, the spirit of light, and Vatu, the spirit of darkness, would come into battle. These 2 spirits would come into battle against each other to determine the fate of humanity for the next 10,000 years. Well, it's actually not just humanity, because we're talking about the spirit realm and the human realm here, which in 9829 BG were the same thing. See, for the majority of the Earth's existence, the spirit realm and the human realm coexisted. But because of this, humans had to live on top of lion turtles. However, should the humans ever need to go down to the surface, they would be given bending by the lion turtles to protect them from the spirits. Well, not all spirits are evil, some are. The problem is that during this harmonic convergence, one of the humans that lives on a lion turtle came down and accidentally assisted Vatu in his battle against Rava, not realizing that Vatu was actually the spirit of darkness. However, when Juan separated them, he actually severed the tie between Rava and Vatu, allowing Vatu to corrupt all of the spirits around him and increase the level of darkness on Earth, which gave him more power and gave Rava less. Because Rava and Vatu operate a bit like devils in Chainsaw Man. If there's more light in terms of peace and happiness, Rava gets stronger. If there's more despair and calamity, Vatu gets stronger. In order to make up for this egregious sin, though, Juan decides to fuse with Rava, after of course being taught all 4 bending styles. And with this now fused form with Rava, Juan went and fought Vatu. And he defeats Vatu and seals him in the Tree of Time, an immortal prison, if you shall. However, to make sure that humans would never free Vatu from the Tree of Time, Juan leads all of the spirits to the spirit portals and closes them off. And since the Tree of Time exists in the spirit realm, humans would never be able to access it. At this point, Juan and Rava's spirits are permanently bound, and this permanent binding is what creates the Avatar spirit. And thus the Avatar and the Avatar spirit are in essence the representation of light and peace in the world. They're supposed to act not only as a bridge between the spirit world and the physical world, but between people. And since the Avatar spirit is supposed to be a symbol of peace between people, the Avatar spirit moves in a cyclical fashion between nations, going fire, air, water, earth, and repeating. The cycle begins with fire because Wan was given fire bending by the lion turtles. He then learned air, water, and then earth bending. And thus the Avatar state follows the cycle in which he learned the elements. But because this is the order that Wan learned the elements, this is technically the order in which every Avatar is supposed to learn bending of elements. Obviously not every Avatar begins with fire, but this is why Aang learned water, earth, and then fire, because he started at air. But just because the Avatar is a symbol of peace doesn't mean that humanity didn't try to corrupt them. And this is why the cyclical nature of the Avatar spirit is so important. Because while many Avatar have lived for a very long time, the cycle always continues. There is no way for one nation to hold on to an Avatar forever. In fact, the only way the Avatar cycle can be disrupted is if we have no more Avatars. And as we know it, there's only really 3 ways to end the Avatar cycle. One is if the Avatar dies while in the Avatar state. As in the Avatar state, the Avatar is closer to Rava than a human, and is in this form connected to all of their past lives. So if an Avatar is struck down in this form, it's basically like an attack directly to the Avatar spirit and not just the Avatar. The second way that the Avatar cycle can be broken is if Rava is removed from the Avatar and injured, or possibly killed. But long story short, if Rava is unable to return to the Avatar, then the cycle is broken, because it was the binding of Wan and Rava that created the Avatar spirit. The third and final way is a bit weirder. The Avatar cycle can be broken if the Avatar falls under the attack of a spiritual infection. And I'm not talking about a cough or a sneeze. No, I'm talking about an attack on the spirit of an Avatar. The best example I can give of this is when Aang is trying to energy bend away Fire Lord Ozai's firebending, and Fire Lord Ozai begins to fight back. If Aang had lost in that battle of lights, the Avatar cycle would have ended, as the Avatar spirit would have been snuffed out. But since we're talking about the Avatar spirit, we should talk about the Avatar spirit. Any iteration of the Avatar is essentially half spirit, as after all, Rava is a spirit and Rava lives in every single Avatar. Because of this, much in the same way that spirits are stronger in the spirit realm, so is the Avatar, because the spirit realm is overrunning with spiritual energy, and the Avatar, while in the spirit realm, can tap into this power. And this is why Avatars are able to pull off even crazier feats in the spirit realm, or if the spirit realm and the human realm become one. So you know how we said that the first harmonic convergence was in 9,829 BG? Well, that's awfully close to 10,000, and that's for a reason. Because in year 171 AG, after genocide, we got our second harmonic convergence. Now, the problem with this harmonic convergence is that Korra went to the South Pole in order to appease the dark spirits that were all around there. However, she opened the Southern Spirit Portal to appease these spirits. However, she found out that if she released both of the spirit poles during the harmonic convergence, that Vaatu would be able to escape the Tree of Time. And Vaatu does go on to escape the Tree of Time, and he fuses with Unalaq, creating a dark avatar. Now, the dark avatar is just an avatar spirit created with Vaatu. All the same abilities, 4 bending styles, energy bending, just with darkness. And when the Dark Avatar and Korra come into combat, the Dark Avatar rips Rava out of Korra and kind of kills Rava. But the problem is Rava and Vaatu can't actually kill each other, as light can't exist without dark and dark can't exist without light. The real problem is here, since technically Korra is being severed from the Avatar spirit, she's severed from past lives, as you need to be able to tap into the Avatar spirit to talk to past lives. Korra then does some meditation in the Tree of Time to bend her own energy, and she uses that energy bending to make a massive avatar that she goes to fight against the Dark Avatar. Then with the help of Jinora, they're able to bring Rava back to life and recreate the Avatar spirit, while destroying the Dark Avatar. However, since the Dark Avatar was destroyed, Korra decided to keep the spirit portals open, allowing the human realm and the spirit realm to coexist peacefully, at least for the next 10,000 years. But because of this, there was a shift on Earth. Non-benders woke up with bending abilities. The spiritual energy of the spirit world co-inhabiting with the human world gave people abilities. But even with this victory, Korra still took a massive loss, as even though Rava was revived and the Avatar spirit recreated, Korra no longer had a connection to the past avatars, something that Aang had almost accidentally done himself, because Aang unintentionally weakened his connection to his past lives when he broke off his relationship with Roku, as Roku was the last firebending avatar, and the firebenders had killed Aang's entire family. Now, since Korra is the furthest we've gone in Avatar in terms of timeline, we're not entirely sure if the Avatar spirit, when passed on to the Earthbender who's getting it next, will only allow that Earthbender to talk to Korra, for everybody. But one thing that Korra didn't lose is the thing that very few avatars have ever been able to pull off: energy bending. See, while technically every avatar should have the ability to energy bend, very few ever have, as energy bending is a lot different from standard bending. See, energy bending requires you to use the energy within yourself. It requires an insane amount of connection with yourself and meditation. And in fact, Aang, who probably meditated more than any of the previous avatars, had to learn how to energy bend from the last living lion turtle, as lion turtles were essentially the people who created energy bending, being able to give and take away bending from every human that either was coming back or going down to the earth. And while Aang only ever uses energy bending on other people like Fire Lord Ozai or Yakune in Republic City, Korra was able to energy bend with herself, being able to create the massive energy avatar that she used to fight against the dark avatar. But that's not to say that Korra didn't use energy bending on other people. Korra used energy bending to restore the bending of Amon's victims, like Lin Beifong. But the avatar is kind of in a weird spot right now, as Korra, who is essentially now the progenitor of the new avatar cycle, has one, decided to keep the spirit portals open, and two, has decided that the avatar will no longer function as the bridge between the spirit world and the human world, because there's no need for a bridge because the human world and the spirit world coexist. But this doesn't mean that there's no job for the avatar. The avatar, just like the White Lotus, are meant to act as a bridge between people. And even though some avatar don't like to listen to the rules, like Yoshi, who was determined to learn the elements that she wanted to bend out of order, starting with her native earth bending and then trying to learn fire and water bending simultaneously in such a disordered fashion that Rangi, her bodyguard who was teaching her fire bending, demanded that she at least summon a breeze so they could say that she at least began to start learning air bending. But Kyoshi was rebellious in more ways than just her training, at least to the grander ideology of the avatar. Because while we've had Aang, a monk and a pacifist, as an avatar, and he might have seemed like the perfect representation of light and peace in the world, and Korra, even though she starts as a relatively complex character, mature into the role of an avatar to the point where she has a lot of similarities to Aang, Kyoshi was none of that. Kyoshi was a 230-year-old, 6.5-foot tall woman who would murder you if you crossed her. But this is because Kyoshi lived a very tough life. See, up next, I want to talk about how certain nations identify who the avatar is, as obviously the avatar cycle is known. So if an air avatar dies, the water tribes know that they're next up, so they keep an eye out. And each nation has a different way of identifying who the avatar is. The air nomads present children born around the time of the fire avatar's death with toys. 4 of these toys belong to previous air avatars. Should one of these children pick up all 4 of those toys, they will know that that child is the next avatar, as that child has a subconscious connection to these toys through their past lives. But that works for the air nomads because they don't have a lot of children. They're an incredibly small country, the smallest country to be exact. Therefore, it's pretty easy to round up all the children born around the time when the fire avatar died and give them some toys. What happens if you hail from the most populous nation in Avatar, the Earth Kingdom? Well, since there is so many people and so many children in the Earth Kingdom has figured out a way to find the avatar effectively and efficiently. A set of earthbending masters take a set of bone trigrams. Now, for those of you who don't know, a trigram is kind of like a compass, but every direction on the compass is associated with an element. These earthbending masters then look at these trigrams and are able to say that the avatar isn't born in this half of the Earth Kingdom, essentially cutting out half of the kingdom in one go. They then go to the half where the avatar might be and do it again, cutting out a fourth of the Earth Kingdom. They then continue this process over and over and over again, eliminating the space in which this avatar might be born by half each time, until eventually these earthbending masters are brought to the doorstep of the child who will be the avatar. Unfortunately, since this is based on geography, there's room for error. And the reason we're talking about it right now is because the time that this system made an error is with Kyoshi. You see, when they used this technique, they identified Yoon, one of Kyoshi's closest friends, as the avatar and not Kyoshi. And because of this, it wasn't identified that Kyoshi was the avatar until she was 16. But Kyoshi had been living as a homeless orphan her entire life, as her 2 criminal parents had abandoned her. However, when Kyoshi became the avatar, her life got worse somehow, with Yoon being sacrificed to a spirit, her adoptive father being killed by people trying to get to her as the avatar. In fact, it got so bad that Kyoshi had to join her parents' old criminal organization, along with her bodyguard slash girlfriend. But because Kyoshi's upbringing was so tragic, she believed in a different brand of justice than Aang or Roku. She believed that true justice could only ever be achieved if she took out those who were flying in the face face of it. And because of this, she was actually pretty effective as an avatar. She was able to destroy rebellions and evil by being the strongest bender around with no qualms about killing people. And when she was satisfied with the justice she had created, Kyoshi created Kyoshi Island, an island she ruled over where only women were allowed. And on top of that, she would go on to unify the 55 states of the Earth Kingdom, weeding out corrupt politicians and creating policies that uplifted the poor of the Earth Kingdom, showing that she could still manage to find a way to create peace and prosperity even though her morals about killing were vastly different from Roku or Aang. And that's kind of why I'm talking about Kyoshi, because even though she's represented as an outlier amongst the Avatar, she was still an incredible force of light, prosperity, and peace in the world. And while she had no qualms about killing people and therefore wasn't acting as a bridge between everybody, she still enacted a greater good onto the earth. And honestly, if there was a 6.5-foot, 200-year-old woman with all of the abilities that we're about to get into who wanted me to act in a certain way that I currently wasn't acting in, you better believe I would straighten up. Because not only does an avatar have access to all 4 bending styles and energy bending, they're also able to do something else that nobody else is able to do for obvious reasons, and that's simultaneous bending. That is to say that avatars are able to bend more than one element simultaneously. We've seen this with Aang, usually while he's flying around using his air bending, when he created a zoo in Ba Sing Se, or bent water out of Korra's flask while flying around. But more often than not, when we see an avatar use simultaneous bending, it's while they're using an elemental sphere. Now, this is only something that a fully realized avatar can do. That is somebody who's able to enter the avatar state and has mastered all 4 bending styles. Now, this technique requires bending all 4 styles simultaneously in a sphere around you, and is considered to be one of the oldest techniques used by the Avatar. It's considered to be one of the oldest techniques used by the Avatar because Wan used it to capture and control Vaatu. And honestly, that makes sense because the elemental sphere is probably one of the strongest things in the Avatar universe. It operates both perfectly as an offense and a defense at the same time, being able to turn away bending with a sphere made of air while launching earth at somebody with earth bending. This technique has been seen by Wan when he used it to seal away Vaatu, Avatar Yongchen when she used it to protect General Old Iron, Aang in his battle against Ozai, or a year after his battle against Ozai and his battle against Yu Dao, and we most recently saw it when Korra used it to trap Vaatu once again. But this isn't where an avatar's true strength lies. No, an avatar's true strength lies in their avatar state. Now, this is the strongest and most powerful ability that an avatar can use. Now, this state was created when Wan permanently fused with Rava. More specifically, when he permanently fused with Rava while touching the spirit portal during the harmonic convergence. Because of the massive amount of spiritual energy leaving the spiritual portal because of the harmonic convergence, it created this super powered form. This form allows an avatar to access cosmic energies, essentially allowing them to energy bend on a grand scale. On top of that, it gives them complete and total access to the knowledge of previous avatars. So when Aang or Korra accesses it, they get the knowledge of Roku and Kyoshi and Yongchen. And with that knowledge, they get the inherent fighting spirit and abilities of previous avatar. On top of this, if an avatar enters the avatar state before they become fully realized, they can also use all bending techniques, because the knowledge of the previous avatars is flowing into them, and all previous avatars know how to use all 4 bending techniques. When avatars enter this form, their eyes, and in the case of Aang, their tattoos, glow. Now, this is the physical manifestation of Rava's spirit showing itself, as Rava is the spirit of light. And as it currently stands, there's 3 ways to enter the avatar state. The first is reflexively. The best way to explain this is fight or flight to the nth degree. Essentially, the avatar state can be entered without the avatar trying to enter the avatar state. This is essentially like Rava taking the wheel. In moments when an avatar feels incredibly overwhelmed, or during moments of extreme emotion, this state can trigger automatically, allowing the avatar a massive power up. Now, when this happens, usually the avatar isn't in control of what they do. With an accidental triggering, usually the avatar becomes a puppet of both Rava and all the previous avatars. People like Aang and Kyoshi one time not remembering what happened while in this state. However, if this does happen enough, it's implied that slowly but surely the avatars gain their memory of what's going on during this mode. It's even implied that they have control, like with Kyoshi, who after the second time she reflexively entered the avatar state, knew what she was doing and remembered killing Shu Ping An. Now, the real way that you want to enter the avatar state, though, is through training. And this way is unfortunately a lot less cool. See, entering the avatar state doesn't only have to happen during combat. In fact, by and large, you shouldn't enter the avatar state in combat, because if you're killed while using the avatar state, then there goes Rava, and thus those who train in the avatar state are able to enter it whenever they want. Now, the reason that you would want to enter the avatar state outside of combat is the knowledge. Like I've said previously, by entering the avatar state, you're able to tap into the knowledge of every previous avatar, and thus those who are truly practiced in the avatar state will enter the avatar state, get whatever knowledge they need, and leave the avatar state. And then they will either have the answer to their question, or they will be better versed for the fight that's coming up. And it's not until you are able to willingly enter the avatar state and willingly leave it that you are considered fully realized. Aang became fully realized in his battle against Ozak when he was able to temporarily enter the avatar state to raise the tide, but instantly came out of it. For those of you who don't remember, Aang raises the tide to put out all the fires created by the battle. The third and final way to enter the avatar state is momentarily. This is kind of like reflexively, but a step down. You see, with a momentary power up to the avatar state, you get a slight power up, but this doesn't require mastery of energy bending, avatar discipline, or any of the 4 elemental bending, as the only time we've ever really seen this momentary minor power up with the avatar state is Kyoshi, and this is before she even knew she was the avatar. So this slight power up gives you a boost to your physical ability while limiting the chance that you die in the avatar state, as it's not a complete takeover of Rava on your spirit. However, the avatar state also allows you to do other things that aren't a huge power up, specifically astral projection. You see, in Avatar, we saw that Aang entered the avatar state to project his spirit to the spirit realm. On top of this, with his spirit outside of his body, he was also able to physically visit his past lives. And every avatar has this ability, whether or not they're tapped into the avatar state or not. The 4 avatars that we actually know stuff about, Yangchen, Karuk, Roku, Korra, Aang, and Kyoshi, that's 6, have all at one point or another been shown meditating in order to have their soul leave their body. Now, they can do this for a numerous amount of reasons: to go to the spirit world, to do a little bit of reconnaissance, or to talk to their past selves to gather information. And it's these similarities between all avatars that I love. See, I think that's the true beauty of the avatar and its cyclical nature, that even though the avatar spirit goes to a different nation with every death, within every single avatar there seems to be a stripe of similarity, a light that shines through them in the form of Rava, but is altered by the personality of the avatar that Rava's inhabiting. And I think that speaks to the core tenet of the avatar universe, that while peace and light may look different to different people, as long as you commit your life to the betterment of those around you, light will shine through you. And hopefully that stripe of similarity carries into the next generation with our next avatar, who's going to be born in the Earth Kingdom. And hopefully this time they can find the right person. And that's it. Pretty much everything you guys need to know about avatars. Did I miss anything? Do you guys want me to do a deep dive on Kyoshi? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Ugh. Deep dive on Kyoshi would be a long video. She has like 3 full books.